Slam by Colleen Hoover. A complete analysis. Some love stories fall apart because people stop loving. This one falls apart because they fall in love at the worst possible moment. And the cruelest part isn't the no, it's the asterisk not yet. Welcome to Slam's, a story where the biggest obstacle isn't lack of love. It's grief, responsibility, and being too young to carry the weight of both. This is Slam by Colleen Hoover, her debut novel, but also the blueprint for everything that comes after. On the surface, a teenage girl, a charismatic neighbor, forbidden's love, slam poetry. Dig deeper. It's a psychological study of how people grieve in silence, how love gets weaponized by timing, and why doing the right thing can feel like the slowest kind of breakup. So if you want to feel this book as much as understand it, instead of scrolling through 10 others. Characters. Laken Lake Cohen, the grieving adult in a teen's body. She is a teen, moving to Michigan after her father's sudden death, effectively becoming the rock for her mother and younger brother. Emotionally guarded, high-achieving, and terrified of chaos, which makes her attraction to Will both a relief and a threat. She symbolizes forced maturity. She's not given space to be a teenager, so every emotion becomes a responsibility, not a choice. Will Cooper, the quiet sacrificer. He is Lake's neighbor, 21 years old, slam poetry addict, and soon her teacher. Uses poetry as therapy. It's where he channels guilt, grief, and the weight of raising his younger brother alone. He's not just the hot neighbor, he's a man who's already said no to himself years ago, so loving Lake feels like self-sabotage. Kel and Calder, the emotional anchors. Kel, Laken's younger brother, and Calder, Will's younger brother, mirror each other's loss and coping styles. Their friendship adds realism and warmth, showing how children process grief with humor, games, and blunt honesty in contrast to the adult's quiet suppression. Julia, Will's mother, the off-screen heart. Julia's absence is one of the most powerful presences in the book. Her letters and philosophy on life and death become Laken's hidden guide, shaping how she learns to grieve, love, and do the right thing without drowning in guilt. Summary. Laken moves to Michigan after her father's sudden death, entering a new town already emotionally exhausted. She's trying to hold her family together while fighting a quiet panic that she lose everyone and she doesn't know how to ask for help. She meets Will Cooper next door. Their attraction is instant, playful, and emotionally light for the first time since her father's death. They go on a date, bond over humor and vulnerability, and he introduces her to slam poetry, a space where emotion is allowed instead of punished. The next day, Laken walks into class. And Will is standing there as her teacher. The line between safe and forbidden snaps into place, and what was a hopeful spark becomes a daily emotional minefield because they live next door and their brothers are inseparable. Will pulls away to protect her, his job, and his reputation. Laken tries to respect that boundary, but they keep colliding in real life. They don't explode, they withhold. That's what makes the tension so suffocating. Every glance, every poem, every shared silence is charged with unspoken love. We learn Will is already a caretaker, his parents are gone, and he's raising his younger brother alone. For him, loving Laken isn't just romantic. It's a potential scandal that could cost him stability, his job, and his brother's future. Slams become the only place where they can almost say what they feel without breaking the rules. Through poetry, Will exposes his guilt, grief, and longing. Laken listens with the understanding that this is as close as they're allowed to get to truth. Just as Laken is trying to emotionally balance her feelings for Will, her mother is diagnosed with terminal cancer. Overnight, she's not just a girl in a forbidden romance. She's a daughter preparing to lose her second parent, a caretaker, and a fragile human being who still loves someone she can't have. Laken hits emotional exhaustion. She's trying to stay strong, attend school, help her brother, and still feel her love for Will. Her control cracks internally. She might not scream, but she starts to realize that doing the right thing is slowly destroying her. Before her death, Julia leaves Laken a series of letters that aren't just goodbyes. They're instructions on how to live after loss. These letters shift Laken's understanding of responsibility. Love isn't selfish, and timing isn't entirely in her control, but her choices still matter. After Julia's death, years pass, circumstances change, and the teacher-student power imbalance eventually expires. Will and Laken find their way back, not because the love was easy, but because they waited until it was ethically possible to be real. Themes plus psychological analysis. 1. Love versus responsibility, the real moral conflict. The book doesn't ask will they get together. It asks should they get together ... and when. Both characters do love each other, but they treat responsibility as part of love, so they choose to separate, which makes this one of the rare romances where breaking up feels like the most moral move. 2. Grief as a silent, ongoing character. Grief isn't a single dramatic scene, it's in every decision, every silence, and every time Laken downsizes her own needs. Hoover shows how trauma can become the way you talk, the way you apologize for existing, the way you armor up instead of reaching out. 3. Forced maturity, the loss of a teenage safety net. Laken never gets to just be a teenager if she's thrust into adult roles because her family can't afford to collapse. This creates a constant inner conflict. Desire versus duty where loving will feels like a betrayal of her family, even though they never forbid it. 4. Emotional suppression, when most of the emotional weight lives in what isn't said, withheld confessions, poems that are under. The characters choose not to speak because they fear that expressing their feelings will either destroy their lives or someone else's. 5. The illusion of control, trying to micromanage the uncontrollable. Laken tries to control her emotions, her image, and her future to avoid further chaos. The book shows that you can control your actions, but not the outcomes. Death, cancer, careers, and timing all move outside her control. The role of slam poetry, the emotional truth without consequences. Slam poetry isn't just a cool side detail, it's the emotional bypass for the book. On stage, Will can confess, rage, and love without using Laken's name. She can hear it, feel it, and respond without technically breaking the rules. This device elevates the novel beyond typical romance. It's a story where words, not dramatic confrontations, carry the heaviest emotional load. Writing style and narrative choices. First-person POV from Laken's perspective, readers don't just see her grief. They inhabit it through her internal monologue and emotional honesty. Simple, dialogue-heavy prose. Hoover doesn't use complex language. Instead, she breaks readers with emotional clarity, not vocabulary. The pacing is slow burn, the story builds emotional restraint so that every poem, every glance, and every late-night conversation feels like a tiny explosion. Why this book works: psychological impact. Emotional restraint increases intensity. The more the characters don't say, the more the audience leans in. About delayed gratification, the payoff isn't an instant reconciliation. It's a slow, earned reunion that feels like a relief, not a cliché. Forbidden love plus terminal illness, the two most psychologically potent hooks in contemporary fiction, layered together so the reader feels trapped in the same moral dilemma as the characters. Slammed isn't about love winning in the end. It's about love learning to wait. It's about choosing to do the right thing even when your heart is screaming for the wrong one. And that's why, even after it's over, it doesn't feel like closure. It feels like something you carry with you. If you want breakdowns that don't just summarize books but dissect their emotional wiring, then subscribe. Because the next Colleen Hoover story in this series, it doesn't just continue the pain, that reshapes it in a way that will make you rethink point of retreat from the page. Thank you for watching.